Hey y'all, my name is Wyatt. I started my career in workforce development with the state of Kentucky in 2010. That experience ignited a deep passion for manufacturing within me. I started this show hoping to raise more awareness around the bright outlook manufacturing careers have. Join me as I sit down with some of the manufacturing industry's most successful changemakers and learn how they're partnering people with technology. It's time to give people more meaningful work. This is Workforce 4.0. Welcome back to another special episode of Workforce 4.0. This is your hostess with the mostest, Ann Wyatt, coming to you all this week. I decided that instead of doing the traditional one-on-one interview with a guest this week, that I would share with y'all a special version of the podcast featuring interviews that I had from this year's Automate show on the show floor. So I know so many of you reached out to me and you were upset saying, Ann, I can't make it. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss everybody, seeing everybody this year. No worries. I've got you. So for this week's episode, I've got several interviews for you. The first one is with Phil Ehrenstein from Dirac. And you're going to recognize Phil from a previous episode of Workforce 4.0 from season 7. Phil is the founder of Dirac. Dirac does digital work instructions, and it was great to meet Phil in real life. He is so fun. He's got such a big personality. And this show was a great experience to get to meet one of my podcast guests in person for the first time. So we'll check in with Phil from the show floor and see what Dirac has been up to since our last interaction with him on the show. We are here at the Dirac booth from Automate. I am with Phil, the founder of Dirac. You may recognize him from a previous episode of Workforce 4.0. But Phil, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm living life. Life's good. Good to see you, Ann. How you doing?
Good. It's good. So this is your first time to the show.
Yes. Yeah, it is our first Automate. Love to be here. It's been really interesting. A lot of really cool foot traffic, a lot of really cool people here. I would say I've heard it's the biggest Automate in years. A lot of folks here. You know, COVID a couple years ago, people, shows were kind of smaller, and I think we're back. I think back in full force. It's really exciting to see a lot of really cool folks walking around.
Absolutely, yeah. This is a big show, you all. This is a big crowd here today. It started off big yesterday, so a pretty packed week this week. But Phil, I've got to know, I had you on the show on Workforce 4.0. We talked a lot about the product that Dirac has, and then we talked about how that's empowering the frontline workforce. But can you just share a little bit more about the new updates that you just had recently with Dirac, and tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So it's been really fun past couple months for us. We are rock and rolling with brand new customers who are really excited about what we can do for them and their workforce. We just launched a partnership with this company called Fairlead. Fairlead is a massive maritime producer. So Dirac, historically, we've worked with aerospace and defense, automotive, ag and construction, complex mechanical machinery, anybody from a tier 1 through 3 supplier to an OEM. But we hadn't had a ton of maritime until recently. And it's been really, really exciting. Near and dear to my heart. I'm originally from New York. I'm from the South Shore of Long Island, from a town called Oceanside. My high school football team is called the Sailors, and kind of really nice that we actually get to support maritime. It's as an industry, critical, and I don't feel like it gets the love that it deserves or the support that it deserves, neither from a technology perspective nor from a workforce development perspective. And that is what we care about. We care about making sure that the American worker and the American manufacturer and the American shipbuilder gets what they deserve, which is a 21st century upgrade and a radically improved quality of life. And that's what we're all about.
Yeah, you know what, Phil, you're right. The maritime industry does not get the love that they deserve, and that's a huge, massive industry. I feel like we kind of neglect them a little bit in manufacturing, but they are doing a big service to, obviously, the country, and they're a big player in the manufacturing space. So that's awesome. Congrats on your contract.
Thank you.
That's a huge win. Can you share a little bit more about why you're so, because I love your passion. Phil is very passionate about manufacturing.
manufacturing. He's very passionate about the frontline workforce is, kind of why we're here today. Can you share a little bit more about how we're enabling people and what your vision is for the future of the workforce?
Absolutely. So, as a company, our software, our Dirac software, automatically generates assembly instructions for manufacturers. So we have built what we call the first automated work instruction platform. So we'll take a CAD file as an input, kind of like what you're seeing over here. Take a CAD file as an input, we'll pull it apart, figure out what order to do all of the assembly in automatically, and then automatically generate basically like 80 to 90% of your assembly work instruction for your manufacturing engineer. Now, this process, super duper tedious, really manual, and unfortunately, it takes like weeks or months to do. And because of that, often it becomes sort of like an afterthought for manufacturing facilities. And so only when, the guy on the floor who has been working there for 30, 40 years retires, do they realize, boy, we've been doing it based all entirely off tribal knowledge. And that is catastrophic for manufacturing facilities. It's catastrophic for the next generation of the American workforce who is relying off of, basically just word of mouth and tribal knowledge. So a lot of what we care about from the perspective of workforce development is making sure that the next generation of American manufacturers have significantly better materials to learn from. And so, I would say for the most part, as we expand our product offerings, the way that we think about it is the American worker, we don't want cheap labor, we want smart labor. We want to automate away grunt work and stuff that people don't actually want to do and don't get a lot of value out of intrinsically, and let folks get back to doing the work that they love doing. Right? So that's why we very much call BuildOS an 80-20 tool. We'll automatically generate 80 to 90% of the work instruction, and the remaining 10 to 20% that we don't automate, we really need a skilled, intelligent, high-level manufacturing engineer to come in and give it that final touch. And that is why we love working with folks who have large manufacturing facilities. They're making a lot of different things. They have a lot of context. We would say 80% automated, the software is, and then 20% we serve as this like data aggregation platform for all that manufacturability information and tribal knowledge. And I would say for the most part, it's been a really, really fun ride. So I'm excited about what we're enabling for folks.
Well, that's awesome, Phil. Yep. Well, thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule here. This booth has been packed. Someone has been here talking to these folks since I've been here, so it's packed in here. So thank you for taking time out of your schedule to talk to me and shoot this video. How do folks connect with you, reach out to you?
Absolutely. Most of the time, I am on Twitter and I am on LinkedIn. So my handle on Twitter is Phil Aarons, Filarons. You can reach me there, or you can also reach me on our website. If you go to diracinc.com, DIRACINC.com, you can either fill out a form to get a demo from me. I will demo the software for you. It's really fun. So you can do that, or we have one of those little chat bubble things on our website where if you click it, you can start to talk to a chat bubble, like a little chat icon thing.
I love those chat bubbles.
People think that those, so most of the time, those are all like an AI, LLM, whatever chat thing. For us, it's not. It's actually literally me. So I will get a notification on my phone and I will answer you myself. People think that it's like, oh, this is just a bot, this is dumb. No, it's literally me. It's actually me. I will get every single one and I respond to them instantly. Even if it's the middle of the night, I do it.
I love that.
Yeah, it's always me.
That's commitment.
You should reach out. Talk to me over the little chat bubble. Awesome. Well, thank you, Ann.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Yep. And we'll see you guys later. This is going to be a lot of coverage coming from Automate this week. Thanks, y'all.
Nice indeed.
Always a great time connecting with Phil. Again, can't say enough about him. During our next interview that we have for you, I actually get a demo at the LightGuide booth. And LightGuide is such a cool product. I love going by their booth anytime I see them at a show because it's just so fun to do the demo and see how fast you can put the parts together and do all the assembly pieces, because it's got the light projection and it's just so fun. It's so interactive. So I really enjoyed this demo with Marina this year. Again, if you've checked out a previous episode of Workforce 4.0, we actually had Paul Reisner on the show back, I think, in season 5. And cannot say enough about Paul. He is such a caring, amazing human being. Love his product.
Love his group of people. So yeah, let's check in with LightGuide and see what they're up to. LightGuide at Automate 2025. We are so excited to be here with Marina. Marina is going to give me a demo of the LightGuide AR/VR solution that they use for manufacturing companies. Predominantly assembly, right, Marina?
Yes, assembly. We're in a lot of different industries: automotive, aerospace and defense, so many electronics as well.
Excellent. So LightGuide and your CEO, Paul, he was featured on the Workforce 4.0 podcast as a previous guest, yes. And Paul is really passionate about people, and that's why I loved that episode so much, because his passion really shines through for people and the frontline workforce and what it means to empower people through technology. And if you did miss that episode, you can catch it on the Workforce 4.0 page. But essentially, you know, one of the big advantages of AR/VR software like this is leveraging it for a bigger workforce pool. And I think that's something that Paul was really talking about when he was talking about like reaching folks that maybe they had learning disabilities or even in some cases mental disabilities. And that was some of the stats that he provided on the show for us. But this is great. This is a great tool for assembly applications for sure. And Marina, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm talking way too much here and I'm ready for this demo.
Okay, let's show you what we got. Okay, so we have a battery bay here, and hardware-wise we have a projector, a 3D sensor, and a Cognex camera 3805. So we're guiding the operator to start the operation with a pick. So they're picking the label, we're guiding them to place it here, and then we actually have the Cognex camera reading the barcode all the way from up there, so you don't have to have a handheld barcode scanner, and we're guiding them to pick our bus bars. If I wasn't paying attention, I try to place it over here, it's not going to let me advance. Even if I got it more close to the right area, it's still not going to advance until it's actually assembled correctly. That's when you see the green light turn on, and I won't be able to proceed until all three of them are green. So now we're having them pick our nuts and hand tightening them.
The part that always gets me, because you know I have a fine trimmer, so like really fine tasks like that,
yes, me too,
are not easy for me.
They're not that easy. Luckily, I just need to get them lined up, and then our torque tool will get it on the rest of the way for us. So we're actually talking to the torque tool here, so I won't be able to actually torque anything until I'm actually in the right area, and the tool sees that the torque is in the right area. That's when it'll let me torque. And we're projecting down the actual torque values there, and these are saved for the part number, so if you ever need to come back for traceability reasons, you're able to do so. And if I was trying to skip ahead here, I'm not able to. It won't let me torque, so I have to follow the sequence. Same thing if I were to try to go backwards, it won't let me do that. Returning the tool to the same spot so you get that press. And our Cognex camera is actually looking for these connections here. So it might look like they're connected, but the camera can tell that they're not fully seated. And you can tell once that hears that click and it can see that it's in the right position, it'll allow us to move forward. Very common thing that gets missed in these assembly processes. We're showing that sometimes we're not able to project right straight down, so we're guiding the operator with a video here to make them move over to this area to see that the arrows are being projected over here.
I love this video that is playing on the desk right in front of them. So that's a really cool feature.
So ideally we would have, a secondary projector that's able to project exactly onto that surface, but that's not always possible, so there's ways that we can move around it. And that's it, cycle's complete, and now it'll enter the rebuild mode, so actually it's communicating to the torque tool. I don't have to press any reversal button. It knows I'm trying to take these nuts off now, and it'll do that for me. Yeah, really great application. Just showing the full assembly process for, beginner operator all the way to advanced.
I love this, and I feel like this is something that is super simple for folks, like if they have zero manufacturing experience.
Yes, literally, I see people come right up from the trade show and are able to build this out. So as long as they can follow the lights, they can complete the process.
That's very cool. Well, thank you so much, Marina. I really appreciate you taking the time and doing this demo for us today. You all, I appreciate you checking this out. Check out LightGuide. This is an awesome tool.
Yes,
so.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, y'all.
All right, yeah. Cannot speak enough about Paul and how amazing he is and what an awesome solution LightGuide is for targeting an underserved population of the workforce. And his passion for this industry is absolutely amazing.
For our last and final interview today, we are taking you to the Education Pavilion, and y'all sleeping on it. And y'all don't need to be sleeping on it. There's some cool stuff down there. There's some really cool demos from colleges that are working with integrators like you are. Such a cool space. This year it was down in the basement of Huntington Place. But we were fortunate enough to catch up with Joe Baldiga from Fanuc. Now, I've met Joe before, I think, at Automate, maybe last year. But this year, I was so excited that he agreed to come on and do this interview with me. And I'm really, really hoping that we can get Joe back on a full episode of Workforce 4.0 because he is so passionate about this industry and he had such a great takeaway for manufacturers that are looking to engage the next generation of workforce. And one thing that I thought Joe did so well that I have been trying to do eloquently for years and just keep failing is career pathing in a very concise, orderly way that is not kind of all over the place. It's very much like these are the steps you take to get to the next level in the manufacturing industry. So let's check in with Joe and check in on his powerful words for the youth of the manufacturing workforce. We're in the basement and so much is going on down here. It's student day, there's kids everywhere. And I'm super excited to be joined by Joe today with Fanuc. Joe is part of Fanuc's educational and curriculum development facet at Fanuc. So we're going to talk a little bit more to Joe on the challenges that are facing manufacturers in the workforce and how we're overcoming those challenges. But Joe, that's enough from me. Can you introduce yourself for the folks?
Yeah, so I'm Joe Baldiga. I'm the National Education Program Manager with Fanuc America. So if you're unfamiliar with Fanuc, we're the world's largest supplier of industrial robots, CNC machines, controls out there. So Bloomberg calls us the Microsoft you've never heard of. So if you're not in manufacturing, I always like to say if you're not Charlie and you don't get the golden ticket to go into the factory, you don't get to see how the chocolate gets made. Well, the majority of the time it's usually like a yellow robot or a Fanuc controlled CNC machine that's out there in industry.
Yeah, Fanuc is a huge brand. In fact, when I started my business in recruiting, my emphasis is, of course, in manufacturing, and I couldn't not have a yellow Fanuc robot as part of my websites. I love the Fanuc. I love the yellow robot. So
well, and that's what we try to do with the program is so we're being the kind of a key player in manufacturing is that we wanted to train and certify students, but the way to do that is to train the instructors, get them the right equipment, and then when students walk out of their program with that Fanuc certification, now when the algorithms search for keywords of looking for Fanuc trained student, Fanuc CNC machine, then their resumes get higher up in that stack of potential employment.
That's right, and then their salary potential also increases.
Absolutely.
So I love what you all are doing. This is very important to the industry. Joe, I just came from an Automate Live upstairs, and a big topic of conversation was workforce development. And of course, one of the new staggering statistics published by Deloitte earlier in the year, we're now looking at 2035.
Okay.
And we are now looking at 3 million job openings.
Ooh, it's gone up. It was like 2.2, 2.4, now it's at 3.
And now it's at 3. And we always like to harp on kind of the negative side of this, but I think we've made huge gains in the industry, and I was wondering if you could share some of the experiences that you've had and how we're winning.
Absolutely. So usually when I hear that statistics and I present on that a lot, and fortunately I get part of my best aspect of my job is I get to meet with student groups. And so I will present the skills gap slide to them, and I say for manufacturers, this number is scary, but for you need to look at this as this is an opportunity. And I say it's an opportunity to get that bag. It's like the bag of money. That's what the kids say. They're like, oh, all right. But if they want to be able to make a living wage, they want to be able to provide for themselves, have a family, get a car, not have a lot of student debt.
Have health insurance.
All of those things are available through manufacturing, and whether it's robotics, CNC, or other aspects of manufacturing, manufacturing, we need to do better as an industry to toot our horn and say, hey, there's great jobs. There's, if you maybe don't have that mommy daddy money to go to college and you don't want to get into debt, you could go into a trade. You could go into getting a certification in robotics right in a high school program potentially at your vocational center, come out making 25, 35 bucks an hour. Then you go on maybe to the community college, you get your associates, then you're moving up to that $35, $40 an hour. Then you get hired somewhere, they offer tuition reimbursement, you go on and get your bachelor's degree, then you're into that six-figure range, and you're able to buy the house, have health insurance, provide for a family, contribute to your community, contribute to the tax base as well. Like, all those things are critical to a high-functioning society, and manufacturing is critical for that, but it's just raising awareness and letting students know these opportunities are out there. And you don't have to be like a super math whiz. It helps in some areas, but some of these, even operators, technicians, these are jobs that are very accessible to people.
Well, you make a great point, Joe, because I was not a super math whiz.
Me either.
When I was in school, and in fact, I got a lot of criticism and negative feedback from teachers. And I think, not to harp on women versus men and all that conversation, I won't touch that. But, what is interesting is that they were very much like, no, you shouldn't pursue engineering. This is, you need to go into something like more arts aligned. So that was a lot of the feedback that I got back then, and it was because they identified very early on. They're like, listen, you're not the math person. So I would love to see that narrative change. I think that it has, and I think that you are doing such a great job in contributing in that way.
And I think one of the things is because I was not a good math student either, and I think what I struggled with, though, is that I wasn't good with a white sheet of paper with black numbers on it. Sometimes they throw in letters that would be even more confusing. But when I got a protractor in my hand and I was measuring an angle and trying to figure out those type of things, when I got the hands-on and learned how it applied, like when you have the X plane and the Y plane and you're plotting numbers on like a dot. When am I ever going to use this?
Yeah, it was
the
really
common
hard
thing
for
in
me
school.
to practical, like in my brain when I was doing that, when I was doing those classes, it was really hard for me to make that connection.
But when you can tie in then like a CNC machine or a robot that's moving in X plane and Y direction and the Z values or the degrees of rotation, like, oh, now that all makes sense. Like, I'm understanding the applied math and how that works together, where I don't think that in the traditional general education pathway, they're connecting those dots for the students, so it becomes that impression of, I'm not good at math. Well, no, maybe you're just not generally great in the classroom setting, but as a kinesthetic learner, a hands-on learner, then maybe there are ways to excel when you understand the reason why you're learning it.
Right. Absolutely, Joe. I agree with that 110%.
But you did bring up the aspect of the male-female thing, where sometimes men are generally of that mindset. They're better at math and science, where girls tend to go into the arts fields and things like that. But
HR.
Yeah, HR. Yeah.
Or sales.
Yep, absolutely. Which and those are key areas as well. And I think there are some strengths where, we'll say generally speaking, men tend to gravitate toward those STEM jobs, where women tend to go toward, they call them HEAL jobs, health, education, administration, and literacy. But I think there's opportunities for crossover in both. We start talking about like the gender pay gap. Well, we have an issue that only like 20% of computer engineers and engineering programs are female. Like, we need to try to attract more young women into this field. CNC machining is even worse. It is 93% male dominated. I have sons and daughters. My daughters, if I need something done right, I say, hey, can you do this? Like, they're very dutiful, responsible, follow the directions. During World War II, when the men were over fighting, it was the women, the Rosie the Riveter, that came in, and they were helping to supply the men fighting on the front lines. But then, when they came back, they went back home and were told, stay there and stay in those lanes. But now we're opening up some of our best engineers that we have. We have a women's in robotics group within Fanuc that was started. Some of our best engineers are the young female engineers that have worked their way up through it and are very innovative. I think Jessica Yeshua, Hope Dirac in our paint group, Stacy Haramoto in our material handling group. Like, some of our great engineers maybe started in like the first robotics, and so we're trying to get women more involved in STEM, to try to change that pay gap too, is like encouraging them to go into those type of STEM fields. And the same can be true too. I think young men should be encouraged potentially to go into education, be a teacher, because there's gender gap disparities there. Health, I remember evaluating school, like what I wanted to do. And at one point I was like, well, I'd like to be a nurse. But then there was still that kind of stigma. You're a male nurse. No, I'd be and then that idea of like, she's a female engineer. No, she's an engineer, and trying to get away from those type of issues within the workforce.
Definitely. I mean, we've done better though. We've done better. So I am proud of us for the progress that we have made.
Yep.
One final question here to wrap up, Joe. I got to know, if we're thinking about the future of work, and a big part of my brand is very solidified in, what work looks like as we progress through automation, robotics, and everything. What does the future of work look like to you and maybe Fanuc?
So I think it's going to be probably a more human-centric focus on workforce. I think when we, one of the stereotypes about manufacturing is as dirty, dangerous, difficult, and dull. And when we evaluate a robot application, we say, is it dirty? Is it dangerous? Is it difficult and dull? That's the type of job that a robot should be doing and not a human in that environment. So I think when we try to say, like, if it's ergonomically challenging, if it's dangerous, like that's the job that the robot should be doing, lifting the heavy objects, if there's sparks and flames and welding, let the robots do those type of tasks and then allow the humans to use their creativity, their mind to program the robot, to maintain the robot, to program the CNC machine, and using technology to help us compete into that market space.
I love that. That's amazing, Joe. I appreciate that. For everyone that is maybe checking this video out and they want to learn more about Fanuc or Joe, what is a good point of contact for you?
Well, you can visit fanucamerica.com. We have a whole page on education, our products, training, options, and then I'm on LinkedIn too, so you can reach out to me on Joe Baldiga, Fanuc America.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for checking this out, and thank you, Joe, for your thoughts on this. This is awesome.
Thanks, Ann. Appreciate it.
And that concludes our interviews from this year's Automate show. Unfortunately, I just could not get around to everyone. I was obviously also doing Automate Live this year. For those interviews, you can check out the A3 YouTube page. Awesome high-level interviews with Teledyne, Schneider Electric, and a really powerful panel interview with Chris Delkeefer and Carrie Giles. That was so much fun because it was an all-girls panel all about workforce. So be sure you check the A3 YouTube page for those full interviews. And I'll try to continue to keep doing some snippets like this from the trade shows that I attend. Let me know what interviews would be of interest to you all in the comments if you could. And that is a wrap on the season 8 of Workforce 4.0. We will be back in July with season 9. Super excited to have Horn USA on this next season, and a lot of other cool interviews coming your way soon. Thank you again for supporting the show. This is your host, Ann Wyatt, signing off on season 8. See y'all soon.